Today, Miami is all neon-lit nightclubs, sky-high condos and bumper-to-bumper traffic on every coastal highway. Millions fly in every year just to taste the nightlife, the beaches, and that Cuban coffee on every corner. But none of that existed 80 years ago. Miami was not born glamorous. It was built piece by piece, year by year, from a sun-soaked little beach town into the dream city we know.
Sit back, roll down your window, and let me take you on a ride through the 1940s and 1950s Miami, one decade at a time with the help of AI.
Let us begin right at the top of the decade. In 1940, Miami was home to about 172,000 people. That is tiny, smaller than most mid-sized cities today. The streets were dusty and tree-lined, and low-slung wooden houses sat next to pastel-coloured Art Deco hotels near the shore. A handful of radio stations played big band dance tunes, and on Sundays, families piled into their cars and drove across the Collins Avenue Causeway to Miami Beach for a lazy afternoon in the sand. Now, Miami did have a tourism scene, but it was very much a seasonal thing. Snowbirds and well-off retirees would flood in during winter to escape the bone-chilling cold up north, filling up the beach hotels and small-time casinos. But once spring hit, those same hotels sat half empty and gathering dust. The town basically ran on sunshine and good timing. It was peaceful, slow-paced, and honestly a little sleepy, but that easygoing rhythm was about to get shattered, and nobody saw it coming. See, when the United States entered World War II in late 1941, Miami's whole personality flipped overnight. The Army Air Corps, which is what they called the Air Force back then, picked Miami Beach as a massive training centre. And when I say massive, I mean they took over nearly every grand hotel on the Strip. Thousands upon thousands of rooms that once held sun-chasing tourists were now packed with three-tiered bunk beds and olive green footlockers. Picture this for a second. Golf courses turned into dust-covered parade grounds. Nightclubs became mess halls serving powdered eggs to young recruits. Fancy hotel lobbies had their pink sofas hauled out and replaced with folding tables and military maps. If you walked down Collins Avenue in 1942, you would not hear jukebox music. You would hear drill sergeants barking orders and boots hitting pavement in rhythm. Hundreds of thousands of young soldiers passed through Miami during the war, and even Hollywood heavyweights like Clark Gable trained here before heading overseas. Soldiers learned to swim in resort pools that had hosted cocktail parties just months before, and they practiced push-ups on the same sand where tourists had sunbathed. But even with all that chaos, regular life did not completely stop. Civilians worked in rubber factories and shipyards on the outskirts of town, and hard-working farmers grew vegetables on the flatland nearby. The port kept shipping citrus and beef up north, and there was one truly jaw-dropping sight. Pan American Airways still flew its world-famous Clipper seaplanes right out of Dinner's Key on Biscayne Bay into 1943. Just imagine that. Giant flying boats taxiing across the water, while war bulletins crackled on every radio in town. Eventually the Navy took over that seaplane base too, and Pan Am had to pack up and move to the brand new Miami International Airport instead. And that little move, believe it or not, planted the seed for something much bigger down the road. So the war ended in 1945, and Miami bounced back like a rubber ball off concrete. All those soldiers who had trained here remembered the warm water, the palm trees, and the easygoing lifestyle. A huge chunk of them came right back, this time not as fresh-faced recruits, but as tourists and new residents looking to start over. And Miami welcomed them with open arms. Resorts and nightclubs that had been shut down or taken over during the war reopened almost immediately. New attractions popped up all over the place. A fine art museum opened near the bay. Movie theatres started showing the latest Technicolor films on their widescreen projectors. By 1948, the Coconut Grove neighbourhood, once a rough-edge patch of town, cleaned itself up and welcomed a wave of new jazz clubs and cocktail bars that gave the whole area a heartbeat it never had before. Then in 1949, Miami got its very first television station, WTVJ, which brought the outside world right into people's living rooms for the first time. Suddenly everything felt bigger, faster and more connected. Now let me tell you how dramatic the growth really was. The population told the whole story. By 1950, Miami had about 249,000 people, nearly 50% more than just 10 years earlier. A brand new crowd was arriving. Middle-class families from New York and Boston, sun-hungry retirees cruising down in their Cadillacs, and early jet-setters chasing glamour. The once quiet beach streets started filling with cars, honking horns, and the smell of sunscreen. Every hotel lobby had a live orchestra, and the whole city hummed with a kind of fresh start energy that only comes after a war. You could feel it in the air like electricity before a thunderstorm, and that energy carried straight into the new decade. As Miami rolled into the early 1950s, the building boom kicked into high gear. Biscayne Boulevard sprouted office buildings like a concrete forest in fast forward. Suburbs like Coral Gables and Hialeah are filled with ranch homes and strip malls. In 1952, a new science museum opened on Bayshore Drive, giving Miami its first real educational attraction. A year later, the Howard Hughes Medical Institute set up a research lab in town. Latin American flavors were creeping in. Cuban sandwiches alongside Coca-Cola machines. The Diario Las Americas launched in 1953, serving Miami's growing Spanish-speaking community. Then in 1955, the Miami Seaquarium opened. Suddenly, Miami wasn't just for cocktail-sipping adults. It was a family destination too. The mid-1950s were all about luxury hotels on Miami Beach. In late 1954, the Fontainebleau Hotel opened its doors. Designed by Maurice Lapidus in the Miami modern style, it was a sweeping, crescent-shaped white tower with fine dining, cabaret shows, a massive pool deck, and enough glamour to make Hollywood jealous. Then on Christmas Eve 1955, the Eden Rock opened right next door with Harry Belafonte performing at the launch. Almost overnight, Collins Avenue turned into a mile-long stretch of neon-lit, palm-lined luxury that felt like a movie set. On a warm summer night in 1955, you could stroll past the Fontainebleau and see its fountains in all its beauty. Staff in crisp white uniforms poured flaming cocktails poolside while guests danced to a live big band under the stars. The older pastel-coloured beach hotels scrambled to renovate and keep up. Nightclubs like the Copa Room hosted big-name entertainers who drew crowds from across the country. But if you ducked into the back streets, you would still find little hole-in-the-wall diners serving Cuban toast at sunrise. That mix of high-end flash and old-school charm was peak 1950s Miami. Transportation was speeding everything up too. Pan Am was running regular flights to South America, while airlines like Eastern and National flew in tourists from every major American city. New highways pushed development north into Broward County. 50,000 sun seekers a day during winter was not unusual anymore. Miami had become a bona fide destination, and everyone wanted a piece of it. But before we get too swept up in the glamour, there is a side of 1950s Miami that the postcards never showed. And it is important we stop here and talk about it honestly. The city was deeply segregated. Black neighborhoods like Overtown and Liberty City were walled off from the rest of town, not with physical walls, but with laws, customs, and fear. There were colored-only lunch counters, separate beaches for black and white residents, and segregated entrances to public buildings. Public schools would not begin to desegregate until 1959. Even as Miami sold itself as a sun-drenched paradise, that paradise had a very clear fence around it. It is important to remember that, because it was every bit as real as the palm trees and the pool parties. You cannot tell the story of this city without telling this part too, so with all of that as our backdrop, let us bring it to the close of the decade. By the end of the 1950s, Miami's population had climbed to nearly 292,000. Downtown had a proper little skyline, a couple dozen mid-rise concrete towers catching the afternoon sun and throwing long shadows over the bay. The airport had gotten so overcrowded that construction on a massive new terminal started in 1959. A big convention centre opened its doors to welcome people from all walks of life. And on Flagler Street, parades for Cuban Independence Day drew thousands, a heartfelt preview of the Cuban cultural wave that was just around the corner and about to reshape the entire identity of the city. But let me paint you one last picture before we wrap up. It is sunset in 1959, and you are cruising down Collins Avenue in a borrowed convertible. There are no glass and steel high-rises yet, just a string of motel lodges and those brand new resort towers glowing in the fading light. No one is taking selfies. Instead, an older couple in matching pastel shirts sips cocktails at the bar of the newly opened DuPont Plaza Hotel. The neon sign on the Fontainebleau flickers off at midnight because curfew is still a thing. You can walk from the sand to your parked car without dodging a single beach chair rental guy. That was Miami at the end of the 1950s. Not yet the full-throttle party town of the 60s, 70s and beyond, but no longer the sleepy little port town it had been just 20 years earlier. It had gone from military drill beaches to glitterball poolsides, from wartime mess halls to five-star hotel lobbies, From dirt roads to brand new highways, step by step, brick by brick, Miami had become America's winter playground. Thanks for riding along with me through old Miami. If this little time travel trip pulled you in, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe.
And drop a comment telling me which city or era you want to explore next. I read every single one.
Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.